Assalamualaikum and good day to Dr. Munir. In this video, Group 6 will present our study related to waste generated from waste oil production plant in terms of environmental and ethical aspect. This is the outlines for our presentation, which will be started with abstract, literature review, continued with environmental and ethical issue, necessity of waste treatment, current action and suggested modification for waste treatment, when and where to conduct waste treatment, and lastly, conclusion. My name is Kamarina. I will present the abstract of this study, which can be divided into 5 parts. The first part is the role of engineer, which is to ensure that the waste is disposed and treated in a correct manner according to the regulations specified by DOSH, NIOSH, and OSHA. The second part is the environmental and ethical issue. Some of the environmental issues identified are the loss of containment, atmospheric emission, and release of hazardous air pollutants. Some of the ethical issue identified is poor waste management practice. The third part of this study is the necessity to treat and dispose waste correctly. Due to the nature of waste itself, which can be hazardous, corrosive, and even flammable. The second reason is to comply with the standard regulations. The fourth part of the study is the current action taken to mitigate the issue and the problem arising from this current action and the modification that can be made to improve the current action. The current action to mitigate the environmental issue is flaring is chosen instead of venting, because flaring releases lesser greenhouse gases instead of compared to venting. However, it cannot completely remove the greenhouse gases, which can eventually cause global warming. Due to that reason, it is advisable to install a flare gas recovery unit (FGRU) to reroute the flared gas for power generation. Next, the current action that can be taken to mitigate the ethical issues is the surveillance of waste practice management. However, this will add additional cost. Due to that reason, we suggested to use an analyzer instead of manual sampling point. The last part of this study is when and where to treat the waste. The timing to treat the waste can be in situ or immediately, periodically, and continuously. And the location to treat the waste can be off-site, which will be sent to the third-party vendor, or on-site, which will be treated in our own treatment facility.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day. My name is Oman Hakim and I will continue this presentation with literature review part. So for this part, I will explain more about the waste and also type of waste. Waste is any substance which is discarded after primary use or is worthless, defective and of no use. In biology, waste is any of the many unwanted substance or toxin that are expelled from living organism, metabolic waste such as urea and sweat. Waste can be categorized in many types such as municipal solid waste, biomedical waste, industrial waste, agricultural waste, and radioactive waste. Municipal solid waste is a solid waste that includes household garbage, rubbish, construction and demolition, debris, and sanitation residue. Biomedical waste is a solid or liquid waste including containers, intermediate or end product generated during diagnosis, treatment, and research activities of medical science. Next, agricultural waste is a waste that generated from farming activities, and this substance mostly biodegradable. Industrial waste is a liquid or solid waste that are generated by manufacturing and processing unit of various industries like chemical, petroleum coal, metal gas, sanitary, and paper. And the last type of waste is radioactive waste. It's a result of many activities including nuclear medicine, nuclear research, nuclear power generation, rare earth mining, and nuclear weapon reprocessing. As you can see in the slide, there is a waste contribution where you can see majority waste are come from industries and only 8.33% come from household and 5.78% come from others. This means that many waste are come from industry, and that is why our topic is focusing more on industrial waste. Even statistics prove that 7.6 billion tons of industrial waste produced annually. So how, what, where, and when are the issues can be solved will be discussed later by my friend after this. With that, I think that's all from me today, and I will pass the floor to Kamarina to discuss more about the issues related to this topic. Thank you.
For Chapter 1, I will present this chapter in 3 different parts. The first part is the waste identification of waste oil plant, which can be categorized into solid, liquid, and gas. For solid waste, this solid waste is produced from the reaction which operate at high temperature and pressure. Due to that reason, there will be coke formation. Apart from that, after several years of operating, the spent catalyst must be regenerated or disposed in a correct manner. The second waste is liquid, which is oily water coming from the bottom sediment and water treatment (BSNW). The third waste is gases. Gases waste come from venting and flaring, which mostly are greenhouse gases, which are methane, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and hydrogen sulfide. The second part is environmental issue. The first issue is the loss of maintainment, which is due to the removal of coke, venting, and flaring. The second issue is atmospheric emission due to venting and flaring also, which release greenhouse gases which can cause global warming. The third issue is the release of hazardous air pollutant. In the hydrocarbons, usually there are volatile organic compounds such as benzene, xylene, and toluene. The third part is the ethical issue. The first issue is the poor waste management system. As you can see from the slide, this is the picture of a improper design of waste storage near to a slope. It has the risk to contaminate the water bodies and also destroy the environmental preservation area. The second ethical issue is an infrequent sampling routine, which causes difficult to backtrack the source of contamination.
Hello and a very good day. My name is Siti Nushaza binti Abdurrahman and I'll be presenting chapter 2, which is why is it essential to remove and curb waste during base oil processing. For my presentation, I will focus on the necessity to treat oil processing waste and the implication to society if poor waste management. In process plant, it is essential to treat oil processing waste. This is due to the biological and nature of the waste discharge. Most waste that were released and disposed may be hazardous, and Maxulac 2010 stated that industrial waste does pollute the nearby soil or adjacent water bodies. Next is to comply the standard regulations that were set by authorized bodies such as OSHA, DOSH, NIOSH. Then, to make sure that the final product of process is on specification. This is to make sure that the product be on specification to cater the customer needs and the product should satisfy the economy of the process plant. Implication to society if poor waste management were health effects such as respiratory disease, diarrhea, cancer, and disabilities. It also disturbing the life cycle of living organism and basic human needs. According to Jones 2018, severe pollution, disease, and urban flooding which leads to greenhouse gases.
Hi and good day. My name is Mohammed Danish, a resident, and I will be presenting about Chapter 3 on how can the current ethical and environmental issues related to waste treatment be improved. In this chapter, there will be three subtopics, which are the current action taken by the oil industry to mitigate the arising environmental and ethical issue, the problem that arises from the deployed current action, and lastly, the modification on the current action. As mentioned by Kamarina in Chapter 1, the environmental issue is the venting of overpressure volatile organic compound, VOC, or hydrocarbon to the atmosphere, and loss of containment of hazardous gas to the environment. While for the ethical issues are about mismanagement of waste material and lack of waste sampling. Current action taken to mitigate the venting and loss of containment of hazardous gas, such as VOC and hydrocarbon, is by directing the gas vented out from the system due to system overpressure. The venting of these gases to the atmosphere poses high greenhouse gases effect as well as fire and explosion threat to the process plant. By flaring, the hydrocarbon will be incinerated forming carbon dioxide, thus reducing the risk of fire and explosion. However, an issue arises when this action were taken where flaring still emits greenhouse gas and a form of resource wastage. Therefore, modification can be made by redirecting the vented gas to the flare gas recovery unit, being treated as fuel for the power generation system. For mismanagement of waste, which fall under ethical issue category, action taken by the industry is performed clearly as mentioned on the misconduct in managing the waste. Ethical issues are clearly related to the behavior of the human itself. Thus, there are no mechanical control measures that can be deployed. Therefore, a periodic inspection may control the behavior greatly. However, issues arise when the conducting the periodic inspection requires number of human resources just to make sure a simple task of managing the waste in a proper order. Thus,
This modification can be done on this method is introducing a proper waste management reporting to dispose the waste in a proper way. The personnel will be more responsible in their action. Next is the lack of waste sampling. Action by industries is by conducting manual waste sampling at all points of discharge regularly to monitor the quality of final discharge released to the environment. However, the issue is the personnel that were appointed to perform the routine sampling may be irresponsible and tend to not perform the routine sampling according to the requirement. Therefore, modification can be made to eliminate the issues on this ethical issue is by installing analyzer or waste monitoring equipment at point of discharge. Installation of monitoring equipment will increase the reliability in monitoring the waste disposal at point of discharge. That's all from me for chapter 3.
I'm Nur Hidayah binti Ahmad Yunus, and I will be explaining about question 4 and 5, which are when and where to implement the actions. So first, we need periodically evaluate all waste stream for continual improvement of management particles. So this is because we need to do it periodically due to the technology keep on advancing, legal requirements also change over time, and the availability of external service provider also vary. So, and it needs to be done at all the waste stream. So, and another thing is like, if we, for example, if we already change our ways of treatment, if we do the evaluate, we can verify the volume and the characteristics of the waste. Is it like keep on increasing or keep on decreasing? If it's keep on decreasing, then it's good. So next we'll be using in situ treatment prior to the remaining sediments from the storage tanks, such as washing the tank with diesel, naphtha, or water. So the sediments from impurities in the stored material and corrosion materials that form in the steel will accumulate over time, and it needs to be removed periodically. So typically when the tanks are out of service for inspection and also for maintenance. So but however, before we remove the waste, we need to wash it with, as I explained before, with diesel, naphtha, or water at the storage tank. Next, audits need to be done on waste management facilities for both on-site and off-site facilities. So what does it mean by on-site facilities? Actually, if the process plant have their own treatment system. In our case, we have our own water treatment system. And we use off-site treatment facilities for our spent catalyst, which we use third party to dispose the spent catalyst. And these audits need to be done regularly at on-site and off-site to ensure that the verification of technical aspects of good practice, environmental aspect of the process, workers, and also installation safety. So, and lastly, we need to monitor any on-site waste storage operations all the time. This is because we need to identify and prevent any potential contamination of soil and groundwater. So, for example, the containers that we use to store the waste should be compatible with the waste stored. It should not react with the storage, and it should not be pressurized also.
To conclude this project, we can summarize that the project produced some waste which were spent catalyst, coke formation, oily water, flue gas, and greenhouse gases. Next is the environmental issues that were faced by the process plant, which were loss of containment, atmospheric emissions, and release of hazardous air pollutants. Hence, it is necessary to treat waste as it hazardous, corrosive, toxic, and flammable. Thus, action to mitigate the waste were proposed. One of the action was by flaring instead of venting practice and regular surveillance of waste management system. Besides, rerouting flaring to power generation plant could help sustaining the environment and economy of the process plant. That's all. Thank you and have a nice day.